Hello, everybody. It is 10:01 p.m. Central Time on Monday, February 6th, 2017. We're already in February. Man, time is flying by, guys. Hope you're doing good. Welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream, where we daily recap seismic events from around the planet, and we also issue semi-daily and weekly earthquake forecasts, and we issued our new weekly earthquake forecast a day ago, 24 hours ago. So here we are on day one of the forecast for this new week, and I'd like to get right into it. But before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge everybody in the different chat rooms, everybody over on YouTube, over on Twitch, over on Dutch Sense Reloaded, the Terremoto 3D chat. Right now, it looks like there's about 400 people over in YouTube, about another 200 people over in Twitch. That's awesome, guys. And about 11 people over at the Terremoto 3D International rooms. So, it is what it is. We're trying to reach out to people around the world, and I'm surprised there's not more people in Italy tuned in. But then again, with the troll campaign that's going on over there and the resistance to science, I'm not surprised that that's going on. But, that being said, guys, I'd like to get into what struck since last night. So, first of all, let's talk about the earthquakes that we see here on the map. You're going to see an earthquake here at the northeast tip of New Zealand. Right here at the catcher's mitt position, guys. That is what we were expecting. We talked about last night, okay? We covered that a little bit. And now, of course, you can see it on the map here if you missed that. That struck. And then, of course, down here south near our X marks the spot of 5.6. Now, you'll notice we have two X's here, one here and one here. And I was looking to this X for the earthquake to strike. However, it struck at the other X. So I'm going to call that an earthquake forecast miss. But magnitude, it's spot on. Time frame, it's spot on. Okay? So, same time that's going on, check out what struck over here. Take a look at it, guys. The Colombia-Ecuador border region was struck by a noteworthy 5.0 earthquake, 5.4. And many people in the region reported feeling it. I think there was slight damage from the earthquake. But look where our arrow points, and look where the earthquake struck. So when we issued the warning for the Ecuador-Colombia border, and now Colombia struck near the Ecuador border, I would say that's the earthquake we were looking for. Same time that happened, another earthquake struck on the coast of Honshu. And this follows all the other fives that were down to the south. The other fours that totaled up to a single 5. You can see down here to the south, they're in red. Well, the new earthquake struck off the coast of Honshu. We are still watching for the next several days for an earthquake to strike here, northeast of Taiwan, near Okinawa. And we talked about that last night. The warning still stands. Now it really stands because Okinawa is the halfway point between the coast of Honshu that we have up here to the northeast. And I'll show that to you here really quick. Hold on. Okay, and the earthquake down here, the 4.8. Halfway point between the 5.0 up to the north and the 4.8 down to the south, as the fault zones go, brings us right in here, our halfway point. Okay? So, also over here to the west, take a look at what hit since a day ago. Now, you guys may remember, of course, North India was hit, but look at what hit since. Over here in Europe, look, guys, I don't need to point this out. This is a tremendous amount of earthquake activity. And I'd like to turn on the last day global feed. This should give us the Turkish agency. Okay, and now this is going to be a ton of earthquakes here on the map. I mean, so many that they're not even going to fit here on the screen, no matter what I do to try and get them to fit on. That's how many earthquakes there are. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes here to the west of Turkey, north of Crete. And we were looking for a 5.3 to 5.4 type earthquake. And now expended pressure here is at least at a 5.5 to 5.6. Same time that's going on over the past 24 hours, I want you to take a look at what's going on here in Italy. Okay, do you see this? Now, this is a fair amount of activity, and I could even take half of these off, and we would still be at a tremendous amount of activity. But there's a new swarm breaking out. You see this earthquake in green? Okay? I'm going to go get the coordinates on this, and we're going to go look this up. Because now that a huge swarm has broken out west of Turkey in Greece, basically, between Greece and Turkey. We have to watch out in Italy over the next several days for the potential of a larger earthquake than what I was originally looking for. So if I was originally looking for a 4.7 to 4.8, however, with the earthquakes that struck over the past 24 hours over to the east, guys, take a look over to the east in Turkey. That's so much movement. And then we add in the activity across Iran. Look at that. So if you add this together, you add in the 4.9s and the 5s, we're already looking at a potential large earthquake. Italy is next on the list. And not just anywhere in Italy. Do you see where the green earthquake is here? Let me get the coordinates on this, and let me open up a display capture. Everybody, if you are in Italy, I know there's only a few people probably in Italy listening right now, but we're going to go get the coordinates from the INGV. We're looking at a potential of a larger earthquake striking, maybe 1 magnitude larger than what I was looking for. So if I was looking for a 4.7, it could go up to a 5.7 with this activity down in Greece and Turkey. But first things first, let's see where this new little swarm has broken out, and I think it might raise your eyebrows a little bit, guys. Now take a look at this, okay? Now I'm going to back this out. It's now south of L'Aquila. South of L'Aquila. So a new swarm has broken out south of L'Aquila, here. And I'm going to mark this for future reference. The name of this is Rocca di Mezzo. Don't know what the name of it is. You guys probably will know that if you're in Italy. But I'm going to put a place mark here so we can remember this going forward as a new swarm location. Okay, so new swarm, Feb 6th, 2017. And then we're going to back this out. And we were talking about this. We were talking about how this is going to spread to the south. Now look, okay, I'm going to connect between the north swarm location from January 29th here down to the south swarm location at Campo Basso. And look, guys, we're talking about just, how many miles, maybe about 10, 15 miles, 20 miles, 10 miles. 10 miles off of the line of progression. And it's going along, I guess, a fault zone here. There must be a fault of some kind here. Look at the way the mountains are shaped. Okay, look at it comes down and goes around. All right, so south of L'Aquila. So what does this mean? Well, a new swarm south of L'Aquila and the rest of the activity that took place today already, a huge increase. Huge increase. Look at the increase. I told you it was going to be in the hundreds of earthquakes. It was going to go from like 20. How many was it yesterday? It was 15? It was 15 yesterday. 15. Now look. So there's a huge amount of pressure coming in. And the pressure is going to strike here. It's logic. Logic. The earthquake's going to strike here. I don't know why people are so shocked by that when I'm telling them that. Pressure is coming in from Greece. It happens every single time. So pressure flows out of Greece and then Italy gets hit. And the bigger the earthquakes are in Greece and Turkey, the bigger the earthquakes are in Italy. Okay? So just understand that and you'll understand why we're looking at more earthquake pressure coming in right now. Look what struck. This is today's earthquakes, guys. Today. Past 24 hours. Okay, so it's a lot. It's a lot. This is a lot of pressure. You need to be on watch, and we may need to up the watch for a full magnitude higher than what I was looking for, since we have a new round of 5s. Yesterday, we were looking on a 4.7. Now we might have to look for up to a 5.7. Time frame? Okay, well, now we're looking, since it's a larger earthquake and we have a new round to deal with, we have to extend it for another 3 to 4 days. So, we already saw it today. So a 3.7 just struck there today. So basically a 4.0 earthquake already struck in Italy today. But that's not the 4.7 we're looking for. So in Italy, if you know someone who lives in Italy, you don't need to sleep in your car. You don't need to run around and panic. You need to have a plan and be prepared for similar sized earthquakes to what's striking here. And you see, obviously, we have 5.1, 5.3 type activity, plus 1s and 2s and 3s. The 1s, 2s, and 3s add up, but they only add up to about maybe a single 4.0 earthquake. So we're adding a 4.0 earthquake in with the 5.3, and then that takes us up a notch. So if I was originally looking for a 4.7 to 4.8, I might have to take it up. Not might, I'm taking it up now for the next 3 to 4 days up to a 5.5, 5.6 type earthquake. Okay, so that's big enough. Now I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this swarm here in Greece and Turkey expends itself in Greece and Turkey, and that it doesn't progress beyond here. But the new swarm in Italy right now, all the ones today, going up towards 1.9, right on the edge of 2. I think even a few 2s are in there. But this is going to go up again. So it's going to go from 0s and 1s to 1s and 2s, swarm. And then, boom, bigger earthquake should hit by day 3 into day 4 at the latest. So today is the 7th already over in Italy. So if we're looking at 3 days from the 7th, we're looking at 7th, 8th, 9th, into the 10th. By the 9th into the 10th, it should have hit. Okay? And I'm not trying to exaggerate. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I want you to have a plan, and I want you to be prepared for this because it's coming your way. This transfers like a road. And if it goes around you and it hits up to your north or it hits over to the east, you will be lucky. That will be lucky if it goes over to the east or over to the west. But we, again, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And the worst that I see coming is a potential up to 5.4, 5.5, 5.6. And I'm taking it to 5.6 because of all the other earthquakes striking here. This is a lot. And that's a lot of pressure that's going to come out of Turkey and Greece and go over into Italy. It happens every single week. It happens every single month and every single year. This is the way it goes. Okay? So, that being said, let's look down in New Zealand on the opposite side of the planet because check it out, guys. New Zealand was hit just like Italy. We see activity spread outwards across the plate boundary. Now, here's the deal. The reason these are moving, the reason we're seeing earthquakes happen in a progression, especially down in New Zealand, is because of deep earthquake activity that strikes up here to the north, where our letter D is. So we get deep earthquakes here, that puts pressure down to the south, and guess what? It strikes at the plate boundaries. The plate boundaries go all the way down into the asthenosphere, right where the plate meets the melted magma. So the plate boundary is actually a fracture that goes all the way down through the plate. And so when pressure is coming up from the asthenosphere, the first thing it hits is the plate boundary. Then it hits magma chambers at dormant volcanoes and active volcanoes. Finally, it then comes up and hits shallow fault zones. Well, look what happened over the past couple days again, guys. Look at this, please. If you're in New Zealand, please pay attention. Just like over in Italy, we're seeing a progression of earthquakes occur along the plate boundary. But it's not following the plate boundary anymore. Now it's creating its own new plate boundary, extending from Wellington, going down to the south. Again, this is the last 24 hours worth of earthquakes listed, maybe just a little bit over on the New Zealand feed since it's technically probably 2 days worth of earthquakes. But we can go look at the last week. As a matter of fact, let's do that. We're going to open up the last week's worth of earthquakes. Now, this might be the last 4 or 5 days from New Zealand. Regardless, it's going to show us a connection of earthquakes, all right? All the way across, going from Wellington, down across the island, all the way reaching down to the tip of our red arrow. Now, if you connect these lines, it appears to be that there's a new plate boundary forming here. It looks like a lot because it is, guys. It really is. But what I think is going to occur here eventually is that once this connects through, you're going to either see another very large earthquake, or you'll see a swarm of moderately large earthquakes that are above 5.0 that occur along this southern region. Since the northern region is already completely fractured, you can see it, and you can see which way the earthquakes are progressing down to the south. So what's happening here, again, let me explain. there's pressure coming up from our letter D, and it comes down to the south, so it's coming upwards and it's traveling southwards. And it hits New Zealand as it's coming up, and you can see it kind of spreads out across this whole section of the North Island, the pressure as it's coming up, centered around many volcanoes, giving you multiple 2.0 earthquakes to 3.0 earthquakes. It then pulls up and is bottlenecked here, right here at the twist in the plate boundary. And this red line that goes across the center, we've gotten this from the USGS. USGS says plate boundary goes across this region here. So starting at the plate boundary up here to the north, south of Wellington, out in the bay, going down to the south along the mountain range, it appears to be there's a new plate boundary forming. So the old plate boundary goes along the backside of the island. The new plate boundary, the new fracture that's occurring, appears to be spreading from the old plate boundary on a new fracture line that's connecting down through this mountain range. And the mountain range really is mountain ranges that span all of New Zealand, going across Canterbury all the way down south to our cluster point where we just saw our large earthquake over the past couple days. So take a look at it. All right, now I'm going to get all of the smaller earthquakes off here, and we're only going to look at the 5s and greater. Now take a look at it. Now do you see anything? How about equidistantly spaced 5s of similar size, north, south, and central? First starting at the center, then going to the north, then going to the south. And if you connect the lines between here, this would be the new plate boundary that I'm talking about. So as the crow flies from the 5.1 to the south to the 5.1 to the north, and if you connect it right through, that would be this new plate boundary line that would be forming. And what happens when a new plate boundary forms? I don't know. I've never seen it happen, but it's happening right now. Well, I've never seen it happen before, because we are seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen right now. Now, what to expect from it, I don't know. We need to make the professionals aware of it in case they already aren't, and let them know that we see it happening. They can then make the determination as to what they think is going to happen. I'm not here to prognosticate on 20, 30 years in the future what's going to happen when there's a new plate boundary here and there's rise or fall or whatever happens when a new plate boundary forms. I don't have an example to give you in past reference. So recap real quick. New Zealand hit as expected. Over here in Japan, well, Japan coast of Honshu hit as expected. That fulfills the forecast from this past week. Over here in Asia, going right over here into Greece, well, guys, there is a tremendous amount of movement, which means Italy is going to be hit as expected, which means you have a few days to prepare at the most. You have a few days to prepare. You don't have to sleep in your car. You have to have a plan of what to do when the earthquake hits. And that doesn't, you can't rely on sleeping in your car and being out of your house forever. So you need to know what to do when it hits. If it means buying more stable furniture to get underneath, if it means having a quick exit strategy out of your house, well, then that's what it's going to be. And it's going to continue on this way until your plate boundary stops fracturing. Same thing that's going on down in New Zealand is happening over here in Italy. We cannot deny this either. When we take a last week's worth of earthquakes and you see the line of earthquakes here spanning 100 miles and then 300 miles long, 400 kilometers long, going from Campobasso all the way up here to the north of Norcia, that is, again, a sign of the plate boundary moving. We can't ignore it. We can't pretend it's not happening. We can't, try to shame the people who are bringing your attention to it. You have to acknowledge that it's happening and make appropriate plans as to what to do about it. And that you can't stop it, so you have to know what to do because of it. And I'm trying to give you the best idea of magnitudes that I can that we can expect off this over the next several weeks as this thing keeps ripping. And there's new rippage that keeps coming into Europe and down into New Zealand every time there's new pressure around the entire Pacific plate. New pressure comes from deep earthquakes that you see raised high off the globe here right now. So take a look at them. This is the last week's worth of deep earthquakes, and it's pretty obvious, okay? I mean, we've got a fair amount of deep earthquakes on the map, and the deep earthquakes equal shallower, larger movement. It pushes the whole planet, guys. It pushes the whole planet, including the United States.
5.
So, when we take a look at the U.S., let's get our combined feed for the USGS back on. This will help us to determine locations in the United States that have been hit and ones that will be hit. And we talked about this yesterday. We talked about a few areas to watch for movement And we said again that the earthquake that we were expecting to strike at the California-Nevada border had not hit, correct? And we said we needed to cancel that and take it down. Well, we sure did. And since taking that down, I want you to take a look at what hit. Okay, so it's pretty obvious, guys. We've got a fair amount of activity that's developed out here across the west coast of the United States over the past 24 hours to 48 hours. But where? Well, I mean, it's such a noteworthy increase over the past day to 2 days that, I mean, I don't even really know where to begin. I mean, if you guys have been paying attention to the earthquakes in the past for earthquakes on the west coast, you'll know that this is, a fair amount of movement, right? I mean, even if we were to take this down for like the last 12 hours, okay, last 12 hours makes it at least easy enough for me to take a look. But, I mean, guys, it's a tremendous amount of activity that's hit. And when we take a look at the movement, we have to expect that it's going to be causing larger movement. Now, there's some progressions going on right here. And I want you to make note of this kind of like a squiggled line of earthquakes. If you were to connect the dots on this from this swarm here of the larger earthquakes and all the smaller ones, the zeros, okay, this connects from a volcano here, I'll highlight it in blue, that's called Aurora Crater and Mud Volcano. Okay, it's not a mud volcano, it's just called Mud Volcano. So Aurora Crater here, and then all the way down to the east-southeast, a nuclear test site. And in between, we have ancient volcanic buttes. And you're welcome to come look up each one if you don't want to take my word for it. Or I could just, take the time to show you. And again, this is a picture speaks 1,000 words. So I think once I show my viewers, if you live in California, if you're new here, you'll start to understand what's going on. And I'll quickly tell you again what to watch for after I show you what's being hit. Okay, so this spot right here is Aurora Crater, and this is where our swarm is occurring. Again, you see this, 1.2, 2.2, 2.2, 0.9. Okay, a swarm of microquakes hitting here, and I mean right on the flanks of Aurora Crater. You guys can go pull the coordinates. I won't waste your time doing that. Go fact check me if you want to. Every location match up perfectly. So we go down to the south and you see this 1.2. All right, well, let's go grab our coordinates on this. Well, I almost don't need to. But here it is. You see it says Mammoth Lakes. For longtime viewers, you already know what's at Mammoth Lakes and Mammoth Mountain. But for international viewers and for people who are professionals in maybe other countries who might be listening, these are warning signs that show up before larger earthquakes strike on the west coast. So when we see volcanoes start moving and we start seeing pumping operations move, okay, so here we are. We're right on the base of Mammoth Mountain, which has been marked by the Smithsonian Institute. Okay, it's also a ski resort, but it's an active volcano. Okay, it hasn't erupted in a very long time, but it's on the Inyo craters, and it's part of the North Long Valley caldera. Okay, and this, to the north, is Mono Lake. It's a supervolcano half the size of Yellowstone. So Yellowstone's 60 miles wide, this is about 30 miles wide. And from side to side, where previous blasts have occurred, and then it's surrounded by other volcanic centers. So as we go down from there, we get down to these other earthquakes. Now you see the little 0.8? Let me show you where it is. Okay, 0.8 happening right here next to Crater Mountain Volcano. And you're welcome to go pull the coordinates on that. I won't waste your time doing that, but again, fact check me on it if you want to. Right there. Either way, I know this. I went and looked it all up earlier today in my earlier update. If you guys missed that at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Okay, so just in the interest of saving time, okay, people tell me I take too long. Okay, we go across the border and we get down towards our nuclear test sites. So let's go across the border. All right, here we go. We're going right across the border. Well, first of all, you go right across the Ubehebe craters. I hope I'm probably butchering that. The Ubehebe craters. And then we go across again. We get over here. You see these? And we get right into the nuclear test site that I've shown so many times in the past now. This spot gets hit. They're not doing nuke tests there, guys. Don't worry. But every single one of these is has the military test name, so we can see like Test Sardine, and I mean these are the military names that were given to them. So Grunion, just different names. Hundreds of underground nuclear tests that have fractured the crust and made it vulnerable when there's pressure coming down from the northwest. Now, pressure's coming down from the northwest. All right, we had a 4.0 off the coast of Vancouver. What was that, 4 days ago? 5 days ago? Here, let's see. No, 7 days ago. Okay, so over 7 days ago. Is that right? Or is this... Hold on. Let's just make sure about that. That can't be right. 6 days ago. Okay, all right. Okay, 6 days ago, there was a 4.0 here off the coast of Vancouver, BC. Well, guys, there's another earthquake building. There is. And it's building right here along the coast. So where? Right where our red arrow tip is. And what's the size? Well, first, before we determine the size here off the coast of Northwest California, and I'm talking about a very small area right here, guys. I mean, we're not looking anywhere beyond here right now, and I'll explain why. But first things first, let's go pull our volcanic eruptions. Now, the volcanic eruptions, these are important to look at. We have to check them out for the last day to see if there's any noteworthy activity that could play into the earthquakes. You got to understand, when there's volcano eruptions, this actually robs the pressure in the area and stops large earthquakes. Okay? So, check it out, guys. Take a look at this. All right, and we have multiple different volcanoes showing on the stream. And over here on the east, we have Colima, which sent off the most impressive blast yesterday. And you guys may have seen it in the news even. I can't play it here for copyright purposes because the channel that runs that charges you to try and run that. Okay, so you just got to understand. Huge blast at Colima. Also down here at Turrialba. Noteworthy blast back here in Costa Rica. And then another set of, I would call, huge blasts that occurred down at Sabancaya in Peru. Each one 28,000 feet high. Over in the West Pacific, same thing going on, guys. We have two sets of very large blasts. One over here at Sinabung, the other over here at Ducono. Both sending off at least 10,000 foot high blasts. So, two on the east, two sets on the west, and technically that's three, but the Colima eruption today is just it was a little puff compared to what happened yesterday. So really we're talking about two large eruptions over here and two large eruptions over here. This happens. We see this balance itself out. It seeks equilibrium. The pressure tries to seek a way to spread across both sides of the plate. Okay? So, now that we understand where the volcano eruptions are, let's get back over to our feed. And the feed, again, is going to show us all the smaller earthquakes. And we're going to determine the magnitude based upon what has already struck across Alaska and Japan. So, Alaska and Japan play into the West Coast earthquakes directly. Whatever we see strike on the coast of Japan, we usually see similar-sized earthquakes or volcanic eruptions strike across the Aleutian Island chain up in Alaska and at Kamchatka, Russia. But in times when there's been a recent blast, it can't recover, or the magma chamber can't recover in time to recharge to send off a new blast, the seismic pressure seeps by. The volcanic eruptions cause deformation, which actually adds to the transfer of pressure across the region. So there's been several huge blasts, and when I say huge, 30,000, 35,000 foot blasts up here every day for the past several weeks. Now, what was it, 2 weeks? 14 days of blast at least occurring up here at Bogoslav Volcano. So, with no blast up there today and a 5.0 earthquake off the coast of Japan, that means that 5 could slip past. It could slip right past. And if it could slip right past, where's it going to go? Well, guys, first of all, it might lose a point of 0.1, 0.2 off of it as it travels across this distance. I mean, it's traveling, 3,000 or 4,000 miles across? Okay, it goes across the whole North Pacific, and it might come down to a 4.9-ish type earthquake, or it could stay at 5. It could maintain its full momentum and come across. But I would have guessed that it would at least lose a few points off as it comes across, and it strikes here at the Gorda Escarpment, which is the east and west facing line south of the red tip of the arrow. So it's a very small, little tiny area that we're going to watch there. And time frame for that, let's see, we're looking at by the 9th. So by the night of the 9th, we should be looking at that. That should be 48 to 72 hours. I'm going to leave it up to 72 because it's already been a day and I didn't talk about that in last night's update. Okay, so again, that's kind of an addition to everything else. Once that strikes, well, guess what? We're going to look at a new swarm of earthquakes returning back into western Oklahoma yet once again. It's like clockwork, and you can expect it once the earthquake strikes here on the coast. It's only a matter of time, and we're looking at a few days. So if you live in Oklahoma, the size on this should stay under 4.0. So we're not looking at a huge earthquake, because if it's a 4.9 here, look at all the swarms in between. The pressure is losing some of its steam coming across now. If you go back a year, most of the pressure was maintained. So you get a 5.8 on the west coast, you get a 5.8 in the Midwest. You get a 4 on the west coast, you get a 4 in the Midwest. You get a 3 on the west coast, you get a 3 in the Midwest. Now it seems like you get a 5 on the west coast, you get a 3.5 in the Midwest. But you get a swarm in between. So which would you rather have? Well, I think the people in Oklahoma would rather have the swarm in between. And that's what's happening. It's striking at these volcanoes. So, what's going to happen eventually here? And I'm just going to give you a long term on this, and you can take it to the bank. You can call it fear-mongering, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I'm telling you, we're going to eventually see, in the next few years, we're going to see a large event strike on the West Coast. And when that happens, it's going to push to the east, and we probably are going to see a new eruption happen in eastern California, going possibly over into Nevada. I wouldn't want to put. I'll bet you I'll bet one person $5 on this. I'm not into long-term prognostications. I'm just telling you that's what's going to happen. It might take years for it to happen, but it should happen. It's happened so many times in the past. You know how I know it's happened so many times in the past? You come down here, and you see just hundreds of these. Okay, each one of these is an eruptive spot where pressure has come in and built up over time. And it's popped off with so many different volcanoes. You got one here, 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 here. There's 4 in this cluster right here. You have 4 in a row here. Each one's a different crater. Okay. You got another one off to the side. You got others over to the east, west, north, south. And some are very young. Some are very old, and others are very young. Which means that this has happened so many times in the past that it's unbelievable. And when you get a look at, again, the size of these volcanic fields, guys, it's pretty obvious where pressure spreads out to and gets trapped between. Isn't it? You can kind of see it on the map here. And what happens when too much pressure comes in? Well, again, starting over on the central portion of the edge of the craton, you get 100 different eruptions spreading out. And most people don't know this. But these are here again in the Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado border region. And every single one of these, and they're mining them out. Professionals know about these. Most U.S. citizens don't. But if you start to understand that the volcanic history of the United States has to do with pressure that comes in up wells and then breaks out along the edge of the plate when it gets trapped in between zones. And so we see a trappage that happens between the fracking operations over here to the east and the pressure that comes in off the west coast. And get a look at it here. This is another good way to look at it. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, yeah, you guys can see this. All right. So we're here in California, and we're zooming in on the Gorda Escarpment, and they call this the Mendocino Ridge. Well, if you zoom in on the Mendocino Ridge, you're going to start to make out that it's not really a ridge. It's nothing but a huge mound of small volcanoes. Just hundreds of thousands of them. And you can make out the cone shape on each one now, so it's not even up for debate. Every single one of these, and they're just piled and piled on top of each other. So if there's thousands of volcanoes out here along the volcanic ridge that exists here, and the reason it's volcanic is because pressure comes upwelling, then you start to understand where's the pressure coming from. Well, follow the fracture back out and across. And where does it connect to, guys? It connects right over here into the Izu Ridge, Japan, that whole bit. So if you follow the fracture back over, it makes sense that pressure transfers into here, and that's what's caused all these thousands of volcanoes to form over millions of years. It also proves that subduction is not occurring. How could subduction be occurring if you have millions or thousands of volcanoes piled up on top of each other that have been there forever? Huh? Right? So, think about it, all right? Apply your thinking cap, take off the tinfoil hat, put on the thinking cap, and become a true scientist. Guys, so that's a U.S. update. We're going to watch for that to happen in the next 3 days, I would suppose, 3 to 4 days. And after that, within 5 to 6 days, we will see the Midwest with the resumed swarm. West Texas should also be hit. By the way, hold on. One other thing, guys. By the way, I would like to draw your attention to the earthquake that struck down here in West Texas. Now, this isn't going to make a big deal to a lot of people, okay? To a lot of people, they're just going to be like, yeah, Dutch. Okay, it's a 2.4, whatever. You issued a forecast for Fort Stockton, and Fort Stockton got hit. Yeah, Dutch, right? Okay, well, I'm going to go show you the earthquake. We're going to go look it up, and you guys need to see it for your own selves, okay? Because we issued a warning for West Texas, and West Texas was just hit since my update last night. So, okay, here we are, USGS page. And, I mean, this is rare. It's rare. This is why I have to show it to you. And we'll just go ahead and put the coordinates in, and I'll show you what's at the earthquake location. So if you're paying attention and you're a professional, or if you're somebody who is a skeptic or whatever, we called for an earthquake to be striking here. Now, again, let me show you where we are. Okay, here we are in West Texas. Now, the reason we issued a warning for West Texas is because pressure is coming across the edge of the plate. And these spots, all of these, every single one of these, is a different drill point where humans have drilled in. So you can see it on the map here, right? Okay, I hope you can see this, yeah? That's just one oil well of many. Now, Texas is known for its oil pumping operations and its fracking and gas, and that's exactly what they're doing here. And it's not just this, it is all of this. So when you see the size... When you see the size of the operation, you start to say, wow, you know what I mean? Like, most people don't know, and I'm not against oil and gas, but guys, look, I mean, if it's any wonder of why you're vulnerable, it's because every single one of these little white pads is a different spot where they've drilled into the crust by thousands of feet. And I would say that would make the edge of the crust vulnerable if you start putting pressure on it. And you'd almost have to full screen it to Look, everybody, if you can full screen it, you need to full screen it right now because I'm going to blow your mind. Take a look at all these wells. These aren't farms. These aren't houses. Every single little white speck that you see here, going across hundreds of square miles, is a different oil well. Some are so concentrated that when we zoom in, it's like you have to zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, and then you'll make it out. So they call these the oil fields of Texas, and these are comparable to the oil fields of Saudi Arabia. Okay? And some of them are so concentrated they look like cities, right? So just zooming in randomly. Okay, so West Texas hit. I just got to, drive that point home. The reason it was hit, it's on the edge of the plate, and we were looking for it to be in that size, in the 2.5 to 3.0 range. Now, why were we looking for it to be 2.5 and 3.0? Anybody curious? Any professional here curious? Any person who's skeptical curious? The reason we were looking for that size earthquake, look what struck up to the north over the past week. So the earthquakes in red struck first. So we had a 2.8 up in New Mexico. Well, as the 2.8 comes down and goes around the bend, it's going to lose a little steam, it's going to lose a little speed or momentum, as it comes down and goes around the bend, and it turned into a 2.4. And that 2.8 came from the 3.3 up at Yellowstone. Let's show that to you. Okay, so the 2.8 came from these up here. I'm sorry, the 3.1 and 3.4. So 3.1, 3.4 turns into a 2.8, then turns down into a 2.4. You see? Progression of earthquakes from Yellowstone to Texas. And they said it couldn't happen. They said it was impossible. They said I didn't understand geology. Or seismology. Well, now you can see it here before your own lying eyes. I guess it's just luck again. Just luck again. and again and again and again. By the way, I did have an Italian scientist write me on my Facebook page. They claimed to be an Italian scientist. And they told me that I was getting lucky like spinning a roulette wheel. And, it harkened me back to the days of being smeared by Professor John Vidali from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. The field medal recipient from the American Geophysical Union. Yeah, when he said that I was getting lucky like throwing darts at a board. Well, here we are, and now I'm the king of roulette. I suppose it's because they are from, Casino Royale and the whole, Venice and the, gambling and the, I don't know. But I would say this, guys, that if I'm lucky, I would encourage you as a skeptic, if you're into science, here's what you need to do. I challenge you now. Go buy me several different scratch-off lottery tickets, or Powerball, or any kind of other mega jackpot drawing. You can do the pick random from the computer, but you have to send me the unused, brand new scratch-off lotto tickets. And what we'll do is we'll sit here, and I will do the scientific experiments to find out if I'm lucky. Okay? And that'll be the best way to determine my luck. And it'll be worth my time because, it'll prove I'm not lucky. And if I do win, well, then you'll be proved right as the skeptic. And, I reserve the right to keep whatever I win, of course. So, we will test it. If you want to test it. If you want to test my luck. All right. I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but I have to say it because, again, we're not spinning a roulette wheel. We are going down to a very fine point in each area, naming a specific magnitude and basing it on why. We are looking to other regions as to why. And to sum it all up, we can determine which spots are going to be hit next by looking at the silent zones. The spots that haven't been hit in the last 48 hours. And when we take a look at the spots that haven't been hit in the last 48 hours, and we compare to the areas that have been hit, we can then determine what's going to hit next within a certain amount of time, within a few days. So, to give you another example, we talked about this yesterday, by the way. We talked about watching for a silent zone to develop out or a middle point to be hit from that silent zone. And since yesterday, that silent zone has been cut in half. Now, where was it cut in half? It was cut in half right here with a 4.8. So, when we really look at the area, the spot we were looking at, when I was triangulating our silent zone, I went across the outer arrow, okay? So I went from up here in Japan, down across the arrow, down all the way down here, down to Fiji. And the halfway point that came, from New Zealand. And the halfway point that we came into was right here, correct? Well, if I were to take in the outer perimeter level to this, guess where our halfway point would have been? If I would have taken the inner edge into account. So it's a miss for me, but look, I'm still developing as I'm going along here. You guys are getting to come along on this free ride with me. I'm discovering as I discover. It's on the live stream sometimes. Sometimes it's right here on the live update at 10 p.m. But in this case, today I figured out, I was like, wow, look, okay, it hit to the west. Well, why did it hit to the west? And then I look at it from a greater view out. I'm like, well, that's the halfway point.
3.0.
Okay. So, again, it was the halfway point on the interior edge, not the exterior edge. Exterior edge was over here. Interior edge is over here. It's just that simple. So, and size-wise, 4.8 and a 5.0. That's what we were looking for. So, now the middle point in between there just so happens to be the spot we were looking at to begin with. So, that's just an example. Halfway points between our zones. So there's another halfway point. The original halfway point right here at Papua New Guinea, eastern Papua New Guinea going into the Solomon Islands. And we have to look for a combination between the earthquakes on both sides over the last 48 hours. Okay, so I already talked about this last night in my 7-day forecast. If you want to know which areas to watch, if you want to know which areas are forecast, if you want a detailed explanation on each area, go watch the hour-long update and forecast that I did last night. That pretty much wraps up the areas except for Central America and South America. Central America and South America. Now, I got a message from somebody over on Facebook. I was probably lost in translation, but it came across as really rude, telling me that I wasn't doing enough for everyone and that I needed to do Central America more and spend more time focused on Central America. Well, okay, I have no problem focusing on Central America. However, I have hardly any viewing audience in Central America at all. So, I don't have any Spanish translations going on, and I have to rely on people to share my information and know I can see from my statistics I might get 10 viewers that might watch down there. That's 10 people that might have their lives saved if they could speak English and understand what I'm saying at a rapid pace. So, the reason I don't normally cover Central America too hard is, I do cover it, but I don't issue super detailed forecasts for the countries because I don't have anybody watching there yet. If people were watching there and I knew that the warnings were going to get there, I would spend an additional 5, 10, 15 minutes going over every single country. But I do cover it in the volcano eruptions, and we do look at everything for 4.0 and greater that could strike. So when I talk about, 5.0 and greater is what I normally forecast for Central and South America. I don't want to bother you with anything under a 5, usually. Because you're in South America, you've got big volcanoes, and you get big earthquakes all the time. A 4.0 earthquake isn't exactly something you even want to know about, right? But I want to know about it, and I still keep track. So that's why I keep track of the volcano eruptions, and that's why I keep track of the 5.0 and greater earthquakes that you see striking. That being said, we have huge blasts occurring here at Sabancaya volcano in South Peru. Well, with multiple 5.0 worthy blasts, each blast equal to a 5.0, this means the area between Sabancaya and the area where you see this 5.4 up to the north. Okay, let me highlight that in blue, 3.7 and a 5.4. Well, the halfway point between Sabancaya and the 5.4 brings us down into North Peru. But this could also go over to the border with Brazil at this point. But I would more lean towards North Peru as the spot to watch. But it could be North Peru at the Brazil border, or it could be North Peru at the Ecuador border. It's a pretty wide area there. I want to say that's about 400 or 500 miles wide that we're going to have to watch, unfortunately. But it's an east to west zone that we have to watch in that it's kind of like a basin area right there. So keep watch there. It's a halfway point between the volcano to the south and the 5s to the north. The volcano to the south equals at least 3 5s. 3 different 5.0 worthy earthquakes. So if we have 3 5s to the south and 1 5 to the north, and the 5 to the north is a 5.4, so really we're looking at a potential of a 5.6 to 5.7 to strike in North Peru near or south of the Ecuador border. Okay, time frame on that, it's going to be 4 to 5 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the 11th into the 12th at the latest. This is a new addition to my last night's forecast. This is based upon the new movement that we've seen today and the new blasts. Okay, guys, so, again, I try to cover it as best as I can. In Central America, well, guys, you got multiple volcanic blasts right now that are relieving the seismic pressure. So your seismic pressure is gone until the volcanoes stop. Once the volcanoes stop, then you watch for 5.0. Probably, let's see, we've got 3 different 5s, or no, 1 different 4 and 2 different 5s. So that's about a 5.2. It's not that big of a deal. Again, for a 5.2 in Central America, you guys are used to 5.0 earthquakes. Now, where would it strike? It would be striking at El Salvador, in between the volcanoes. Okay? So, just, again, it's not that big of a deal for the people in El Salvador. You tell them about a 5, they say, yeah, we know. Okay, well, this will be just a good proof to you that this is forecasting and that it doesn't matter whether it's a small or a big earthquake. We can try to get it down to a pretty good magnitude and a location. So El Salvador is the tiny little country here. This is in addition to what I forecast for last night, guys. Okay? So, there's your coverage for Central America, all right? Oh, bueno, right? Okay. Oh, very cool, very cool. What else do we got going on? I think that's all we've got. So I would like to tell you guys right now, don't be scared by anything that you're hearing right now. If you do see a large earthquake develop, don't be scared by it. Be prepared for it. Being prepared means knowing what to do when an earthquake actually strikes. Okay, that's the first thing. The stockpiles of food and water, yeah. I mean, that's good for if you're going to be stuck in your house or something. You know what I mean? But if you're not and you need to exit the structure, which is what most people do eventually during a large earthquake, that you need to know first how to take cover when the big jolt of the earthquake is happening, when things are falling down. You need to know and how to assess very quickly whether or not you need to exit your structure or stay in it. And if you need to exit your structure, you need a safe exit plan. And you also need a place to go, a place to communicate. You need to have certain things ready to go by the door so that if you have to leave, you can grab what your bag, which we call it here in the States, we call it the bug out bag. Your bug out bag for when you're bugging out and you got to run out the door. And you grab your bug out bag, and it's got a set of keys, and it's got just, basic stuff, a little first aid kit, and maybe a form of communication, walkie-talkie, whatever, extra cell phone, extra charger, extra battery pack, something that'll allow you to try and communicate with people and let people know that you're okay. All right? And if you're not okay, you need a way to communicate that as well. A whistle. Some way of making loud noise in case you're trapped in it somewhere. If you have a whistle and you can blow the whistle, people can hear the whistle as opposed to you trying to yell. And it's easier to blow a whistle than it is to scream. So think about things. Think about them ahead of time. A small latch on your cabinet could save you from all kinds of glass across the floor. Small things. Velcro. Peel and stick Velcro, that works too. I saw somebody do that on a Home Fix-It show to keep their cabinet shut. And I thought, wow, a Velcro or magnets. They also have magnets that do it. It's cheap. It's a cheap fix. Put a magnet or a latch on your cabinet. And then all of a sudden, when a 5.0 earthquake hits and things are flying off out of the cabinet or the cabinet doors are open and things are falling out, you're okay. And you can run out of the house if you need to, and you're not running across a bed of glass. That's what small things you can prepare for. Okay, so much love to everybody. Be prepared. I'll be back in a little while. We're keeping watch for the next several days. And if anything else goes down, I'll be back on at a moment's notice.